the primary objective of working with Bob's group was to really, first of all, get an independent assessment on my leadership style and my credentials. But probably more importantly to me, as the relationship evolved, was to have a sounding board, to have somebody that I could, kind of share outside of the officer group, some of the challenges and experiences that I was dealing with and how I was thinking about it, and offer them up to somebody who was independent of that situation but had a lot of experience with similar executives dealing with those kinds of issues. So it's very, it's in part independent, objective feedback, and frankly also just the exercise of expressing the issues and the concerns for me personally to somebody who just is a good listener and a good counsel. Well, I think anytime you have an opportunity to work with somebody as experienced as Bob, which is who I worked with directly, who has a lot of wisdom that's accumulated over years in the business and has worked with a number of executives, I think you'd be, foolish not to try to take advantage of that. So for me, I really enjoyed having the opportunity to glean his insights on how I could improve my leadership with our team and the organization that I was charged with overseeing and managing. So it was a great experience. I also found that with his competency and expertise and in psychology, he had insights into the way I was processing and thinking about things and reacting. Sometimes it's the objective facts, and frankly a lot of times it's the emotions that are built into the relationships with a group of people that you're in the trenches with day in and day out. So Bob was extremely valuable, providing kind of that objective feedback, but also tailoring it in a way that helped me build upon some strengths that I had through the assessments that he had done, and also address some of the weak areas that I have too. So it's very helpful. The value was in having a sounding board, having somebody to bounce your thoughts and decisions off of, and frankly also having somebody that I could confide in and share some of the internal issues and frustrations, and help me think through what was going on and how best to respond to that. So, I mean, aside from the more pragmatic objective of trying to improve my skill and competency as a CEO, I think the great value for somebody in a demanding position like that is having somebody that they can confide in, who is wise, who is experienced at managing difficult issues like that, that's external to the tight group of people that you're working with day in and day out, and that's of great value. It's not as though working with Bob, initiated the process of trying to grow as a CEO or as a leader. I had effectively been in a role like that for a couple of decades, so I wasn't starting with a zero baseline. But the initial assessment that had both a kind of an independent intellectual and leadership assessment, as well as a 360-degree assessment with all of my direct reports, and frankly with a number of people who were in a superior position as well as a peer position at our corporate headquarters. That was an enormous benefit, because you have kind of an inside-out perspective of how relationships are developing and going. And the combination of those two things, I think, was very, very beneficial for me to have a more objective perspective about how the people that I was interacting with on a regular basis were perceiving my performance, not, my intellectual performance, as well as my interpersonal skills and relationship with them. And it was, frankly, it was pretty affirming to have somebody like Bob provide the perspective of having worked with probably 1,000 or more CEOs to share with me, um, frankly, the confidence level that he expressed in those interactions, which was important, and it kind of fortified me during some difficult transitional issues. I mean, we were working through one of the deepest recessions in this nation's history, and there were many times where, the decisions that I was taking were unpopular or created a certain amount of tension, particularly outside of my direct organization, but in the corporate culture. And I think Bob's counsel, his assessments had provided, they offered me a certain degree of encouragement and confidence to stay the course. I think they have a lot of strengths organizationally, and again, I worked primarily with Bob directly, but he gave me some insight into the contributions of other members of his team. And I would say the preeminent strength is their experience. They have been doing this for a long time, and as a result have worked with literally thousands of people in senior positions, particularly CEOs. And that's hard to put a price tag on, the value of that experience and the wisdom that comes with that. In addition, he has a fundamental competency. He and his wife and other members of their team are trained in the field of the psychological sciences. So, it's not ephemeral input they're giving. They are giving very, very thoughtful, grounded counsel. It's backed up with assessments on both your leadership as well as your intellectual capabilities. And finally, it's supported by the 360-degree feedback process from your peers, bosses, and subordinates. So, I mean, the combination of those things provides a great balance of core competency in leadership and performance, but also the wisdom that comes from years of experience. Bob has a gift. I'm sure it's a gift that in part is innate, but it's also one that's been perfected over years in the business, of making it very easy for another person to speak to him. And he really is able to kind of create a very relaxed and trusting climate that I never had any reason to doubt or suspect, that made it easy to talk with him, made it easy for me to open up. And I think the kind of counsel and feedback that he offers is dependent on a very open, candid, and ultimately a very trusting relationship. So he's very capable, he's very experienced, but he also creates the conditions that facilitate a very open relationship and an open dialogue. Well, I would say they're a very, very excellent choice for executive coaching, not just at the CEO level, but I think at other levels in an organization. And I think particularly when companies are going through transitions, whether it's an acquisition, whether it's significant change in leadership or executive positions, or just the economic pressures that we all feel that we're burdened with right now, that the kind of support and assistance that TurkNet can offer can be not only constructive to the organization and to the executive team, but it can almost act as a salve in providing a certain relief and kind of lubricant to to effective and constructive working relationships within your the top organizational team. So they have my confidence, and frankly, they have my support and encouragement.